Commander Calix Thorne stood at the edge of the training grounds, her massive 8-foot frame casting a long shadow across the crimson soil of Drachnia. The twin suns set behind the jagged mountains, bathing her azure skin in golden light that accentuated the intricate battle scars she wore with pride. Her four-fingered hand tightened around the hilt of her vibroblade as she watched the younger warriors pair off, not just for combat training, but for the intimate rituals that often followed. None approached her, none ever did. "Another successful campaign, Commander," General Vexer said, his voice a deep rumble as he approached. At 7 feet, he was considered tall among their kind, yet still had to look up to meet her gaze. "The hegemony sends their highest commendations. Your tactical mind saved thousands." "Tactics are simpler than social graces, it seems," Calix replied, watching as a male warrior cast a glance her way before quickly averting his eyes. She sheathed her blade with more force than necessary. "I'm returning to my quarters." "There's the celebration feast tonight," Vexer reminded her, mandibles clicking in what passed for a sympathetic expression among their species. "Your presence would boost morale." "My presence would silence conversation and sour appetites," she said without self-pity, merely stating what experience had taught her. "They whisper that I'm malformed, too large, too strong, not a proper female." Vexer didn't deny it. They both knew the words spoken behind her back, that she was an evolutionary dead end, that no male could physically mate with her, that her genetic line would mercifully end with her. In her private chambers, Calix removed her battle armor, the mechanical servos hissing as the plates separated from her exoskeletal ridges. She stood before the reflection panel, studying herself with a scientist's detachment. Her muscular frame was powerful beyond the norm for females, her height exceptional even among males. The bioluminescent patterns along her shoulders, normally indicators of fertility among Drachnian females, pulsed with a lonely rhythm. She activated her personal terminal, reviewing geological surveys of the planet's unstable northeastern quadrant. Work was her sanctuary, the one place where her physical differences were assets rather than liabilities. A notification chimed. "Commander," came the voice of her second-in-command, "unusual atmospheric entry detected. Unidentified craft on trajectory to crash within your survey zone. Appears to be non-Drachnian design." "Send coordinates," she replied, already reaching for her armor. "I'll investigate personally." Minutes later, Calix piloted her scout vessel over terrain too dangerous for less experienced navigators. The ground below was fractured with geothermal vents, the air thick with sulfurous clouds. Then she saw it, a trail of debris ending in a sleek vessel of unfamiliar design, half buried in the volcanic soil. Landing nearby, she approached with caution, her scanner detecting a single life sign, faint but present. Using her enhanced strength, she tore through the twisted metal of what appeared to be an entry hatch. Inside, amidst blinking lights and hissing steam, lay a creature unlike any she had encountered in her extensive military career. It was small, impossibly small, with pinkish skin and no exoskeletal protection. Its limbs seemed fragile, its respiratory system primitive, yet something about its features spoke of intelligence, of adaptability. A human, she realized, recognizing the species from xenobiology briefings. The Galactic Alliance had mentioned them, a younger spacefaring race, ambitious and adaptable. As if sensing her presence, the human's eyes fluttered open, a startling blue against the smoke-filled cabin. They widened at the sight of her towering form, but remarkably showed no fear. "Well," the human said in surprisingly functional galactic standard, a pained smile crossing his face, "you're certainly not the rescue party I was expecting." Calix felt something shift within her chest, a sensation entirely foreign to her battle-hardened spirit, curiosity, perhaps, or something more dangerous. The sky rumbled overhead as the unstable tectonic plates shifted beneath them. This human wouldn't survive long in Drachnia's hostile environment without help. "For help?" "No," she replied, reaching down toward the injured visitor. "But I might be your only chance of survival on this world." Elia's Frost grimaced as Commander Calix applied the regenerative gel to his fractured ribs. Inside her dwelling, a structure carved into the face of a crystal-flecked cliff, he was sheltered from Drachnia's caustic atmosphere, but not from the pain of his injuries. "Your internal organs are remarkably vulnerable," Calix observed, her multifaceted eyes scanning the medical readout. No protective exoskeleton, minimal muscular armor. How has your species survived? Elias chuckled, then winced. Adaptability, ingenuity. Also, we tend to avoid planets with acid rain and constant tectonic activity. Yet here you are, she replied, mandibles clicking in what he was beginning to recognize as amusement. Navigational error. I was mapping the outer systems for the Earth diplomatic corps when my ship's AI miscalculated a gravity well. He studied his savior with undisguised fascination. You're not what I expected from the briefings on Drachnians. I am atypical, Calix said, her voice cooling. My dimensions exceed standard parameters. Elias held her gaze. Where I come from, we have a saying, standard is just another word for boring. Over the next several days, as Elias recovered in Calix's dwelling, they exchanged knowledge of their respective worlds. Calix explained Drachnian social structures, a rigid caste system based on physical attributes and combat prowess. Elias shared tales of Earth's diverse cultures and the diplomatic corps mission to forge peaceful interspecies alliances. Your transmission device is beyond repair, Calix informed him one evening as they shared a meal of synthesized proteins. But patrol ships make monthly orbits. One could relay a message to your people. No rush, Elias said, surprising himself with his sincerity. I'm learning more about Drachnian culture here than any diplomat before me. That's valuable data. You study me, then? Calix's bioluminescent patterns flared briefly along her shoulders. I admire you, he corrected, noticing how the light played across her azure skin. Your strength, your intelligence, on Earth those qualities would be celebrated. Calix's dwelling received few visitors, but on the seventh day, General Vexer arrived unannounced. His presence filled the entry chamber as he surveyed Elias with undisguised suspicion. The Council demands a report on the alien, Commander, he said, using their native tongue. He is called human, and he poses no threat, Calix replied in the same language. That is not your determination to make. Vexer's attention shifted to Elias, who stood straighter despite being dwarfed by both Drachnians. It will be examined at the Central Research Facility. He, Calix corrected, stepping between them, and he remains under my protection until fully recovered. Your protection, Vexer's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound Elias hadn't heard before. How unexpected. The oversized female develops maternal instincts for the undersized alien. Perhaps you've finally found a male small enough to not be intimidated by your abnormal stature. Elias didn't need a translator to recognize mockery. He stepped forward, addressing Vexer directly in practiced galactic standard. In my culture, General, we value strength of character above physical dimension. Commander Calix has shown both. What qualities do you offer beyond rudimentary intimidation tactics? A tense silence followed. Vexer's exoskeletal plates shifted in what Elias interpreted as surprise. It speaks, and with defiance. Vexer turned back to Calix. You have 10 planetary cycles before the Council expects your presence, and the humans for formal assessment. After Vexer departed, Calix's bioluminescent patterns pulsed rapidly, a sign of agitation. You should not have challenged him, she said. Drachnian males respond to perceived threats with escalation. Where I'm from, standing up to bullies is standard procedure, Elias replied. He gently placed a hand on her armored forearm, the first time he had initiated physical contact. Besides, no one speaks to you that way while I'm around. Calix looked down at his hand, then back to his face. The bioluminescence along her shoulders shifted to a deeper, richer blue. You are a curious species, Elias Frost, she said softly. Physically fragile, yet possessed of unexpected strength. Outside, Drachnia's twin suns set beyond the crystal cliffs, casting prismatic light through the dwelling's translucent walls. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition that transcended their biological differences. Something dangerous, something hopeful. The central training arena throbbed with the sounds of combat. Calix stood at the perimeter, watching Elias absorb the spectacle of Drachnian warriors engaged in ritualized duels, complex demonstrations of strength and skill that determined social standing. Your fighting style relies heavily on brute force, he observed. All exoskeletal charge and mandible locks. And humans rely on what? Clever words, asked Jexen, a younger warrior who had taken to following Calix since the humans' arrival. Not out of respect for her, she knew, but curiosity about the alien. Sometimes, Elias smiled. Other times, leverage and momentum. In combat, understanding physics often trumps raw power. Murmurs rippled through the gathering crowd. The human had been a curiosity for the past week, the small, soft creature who somehow commanded Commander Calix's protection. Now he spoke of combat as if he understood it. "Demonstrate," demanded Vexer, emerging from the crowd. Since their confrontation in Calix's dwelling, the general had watched Elias with predatory interest. "Show us these human combat principles." Calix stepped forward. He is still recovering from injuries. "I accept the challenge," Elias interrupted, surprising her. He turned to Vexer. "Though I'll need an opponent closer to my weight class, I understand the concept of a fair fight exists even on Drachnia." Vexer's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Jexen is our smallest adult warrior, still twice your mass, but acceptable." The arena cleared as Jexen and Elias took positions in the central ring. The young Drachnian towered over the human, exoskeletal plates gleaming under the artificial lights. "First blood or submission," Vexer announced. "Begin." Jexen charged immediately, the standard Drachnian opening. But instead of attempting to match strength, Elias sidestepped with fluid grace, using the Drachnian's momentum to guide him past. Before Jexen could recover, Elias was behind him, applying pressure to a nerve cluster where the exoskeleton joined at the neck. Jexen froze, immobilized by the unexpected tactic. "Pressure points work across most sentient species," Elias explained conversationally. "You rely so much on armor that you forget to protect the connections." He released his hold, stepping back respectfully. Jexen turned, mandibles clicking in confusion rather than anger. 3 more times they engaged, and 3 more times Elias used the Drachnian's strength against him. Deflection rather than opposition, precision instead of power. By the final round, the arena had fallen completely silent. "Submission," Jexen finally declared. Lowering himself in a gesture of respect Calix had rarely seen directed toward anyone outside the highest warrior caste. As Elias walked back to Calix's side, Vexer blocked his path. "Cleverness is not strength," the general said, loud enough for all to hear. "What value does a male bring if not physical dominance? What future could such a union possibly hold?" The implication was clear, and cruel whispers immediately spread through the crowd. Calix felt her bioluminescent patterns flash in humiliation. "A future limited only by imagination, General," Elias replied calmly. He looked directly at Calix as he continued. "Where I'm from, we've learned that diversity of body, of mind, of approach creates resilience. The strongest alliances form not between the similar, but between the complementary." He walked past Vexer to stand beside Calix, seemingly oblivious to the fact that the top of his head barely reached her shoulder. His presence somehow made her feel not larger, but exactly as she should be. That evening, as they walked along the crystal cliffs overlooking the turbulent Drachnian Sea, Calix finally asked the question that had burned within her since the arena. "Did you mean what you said about complementary alliances?" Elias stopped, turning to face her. In the light of the rising third moon, his features were cast in silver and shadow. "Calix, on every world I've visited, I've encountered beautiful beings, but never have I met someone whose strength and intelligence and honor affected me as yours has." His hand reached up, hesitating just short of her face. "May I?" She nodded, and his fingers gently traced the contours of her mandible, a gesture so intimate that her bioluminescent patterns surged with brilliant light. "Our differences," he whispered, "are not obstacles, they're possibilities." Calix's dwelling felt different with Elias in it, smaller, warmer, charged with unspoken energy. As the twin suns set, casting prismatic shadows through the crystal walls, she watched him examining a geological specimen from her collection. "Your hands," she observed, "they're so dexterous, 5 digits instead of our 4. "An evolutionary advantage for tool-making," he replied, setting down the crystal, "though clearly not essential for technological advancement given Drachnian achievements." "May I?" she asked, extending her larger hand. When he placed his palm against hers, the contrast was striking, her azure, armored fingers against his smaller, softer skin. "Different," she murmured, "yet functionally compatible." The word hung between them. Compatible. The accusation always leveled against her, that she was biologically incompatible with males of her species, an evolutionary dead end. Calix, Elias said softly, interlacing his fingers with hers. In diplomatic training, we learn that true compatibility transcends physical parameters. It exists in shared values, mutual respect, complementary strengths. Your diplomats speak of alliance building, she said, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to deeper blue. Not personal unions. The principles are the same. His free hand tentatively touched the sensitive area where her exoskeleton thinned near her neck, sending an unexpected tremor through her nervous system. Successful relationships, political or personal, require adaptation, creativity, and trust. Her bioluminescence flared brightly, an involuntary response she couldn't hide. Among Drachnians, such a display had only one interpretation: desire. I've studied your physiological responses, Elias admitted. The patterns of light along your shoulders, they're beautiful. They signal fertility, she said bluntly, mandibles clicking in embarrassment. A mating display no Drachnian male has ever found appealing on me. Their loss, Elias whispered, stepping closer. On Earth we have a saying, the most beautiful light shines from those who have known darkness. With gentle determination, he guided her toward the dwelling's inner chamber. The bioluminescent algae she cultivated in wall recesses cast a soft glow over the space. Are you certain, she asked, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Our anatomical differences are challenges to be solved creatively, he finished, his hands already exploring the sensitive junctures where her exoskeletal plates met. I've always been an excellent problem solver. What followed transcended her every expectation of physical intimacy. Where Drachnian mating was ritualized and mechanical, Elias brought patient exploration, discovering sensitive nerve clusters she hadn't known existed. His smaller size became not a limitation but a revelation as he navigated her body with cartographer's precision, mapping pleasure points no Drachnian would have thought to seek. She feared hurting him with her strength, but he guided her, showing how to channel her power into intensity rather than force. When her bioluminescence erupted in blinding pulses of pleasure, he held her through the tremors, his expression one of wonder rather than fear. How, she asked afterward, as they lay entwined in the strange, perfect geometry their different bodies created together. How did you know? Basic xenobiology, creative adaptation, and genuine desire, he said, trailing fingers along her cooling exoskeleton. Plus, your species isn't as physiologically different from humans as you might think. The fundamental principles of pleasure are surprisingly universal. This changes everything, she whispered, the implications crashing over her like Drachnia's caustic tides. If we are compatible in this way, we might be compatible in others, he completed her thought, including, perhaps, genetically. The possibility struck her like a physical blow. Children, the future she had resigned herself to never having, suddenly seemed within reach. Not a theoretical possibility, but a tangible hope. The medical technology exists, she said slowly. Genetic hybridization is practiced among compatible species in the Galactic Alliance, but no Drachnian has ever. First time for everything, Elias said, pressing his lips to the sensitive area beneath her mandible. And we've already proven we excel at firsts. Outside, sheet lightning illuminated the turbulent Drachnian atmosphere, nature's answer to the electric connection they had forged within. The message arrived as Drachnia's third moon reached its zenith. Earth vessels had detected Elias' emergency beacon. A rescue mission was inbound, arrival estimated within 3 planetary cycles. 3 days, Elias translated, studying Calix's reaction. They stood on the observation platform outside her dwelling, the crystal cliffs gleaming beneath them. I should feel relieved. You don't sound relieved, she observed, her mandibles clicking softly. I'm not, he admitted. 3 months ago, being stranded on an acidic planet with hostile tectonics would have seemed like a nightmare. Now you face a different challenge, she finished for him. The unspoken question hung between them, what happens next? The following morning, they presented themselves to the High Council, a formality required before any off-world departure. The council chamber's high ceilings accommodated the tallest Drachnians, its walls inscribed with battle histories dating back millennia. The human will depart, and matters will return to their natural order, General Vexer declared, taking his place among the 7 counselors. Commander Calix will resume her duties without distraction. Calix stepped forward, her combat honors clinking against her ceremonial armor. I request permission to accompany Diplomatic Officer Frost to Earth as Drachnia's first cultural ambassador. The chamber erupted in clicks and hisses, the Drachnian equivalent of shocked gasps. Unprecedented, declared Elder Thaxis, the eldest counselor. No Drachnian has chosen to leave our world permanently. To what purpose? Demanded Vexer. What could Drachnia gain from such an arrangement? Alliance with Earth opens trading possibilities with 17 affiliated systems, Elias offered, his diplomatic training evident in his measured tone. Access to technologies Drachnia currently lacks, including atmospheric purification systems that could make your surface habitable without exoskeletal protection. Vexer's mandibles clicked dismissively. Pretty words to disguise what this truly is. A male too small to attract a proper mate, and a female too large to fulfill her biological function. On the contrary, Calix countered, her bioluminescent pattern steady and confident. Medical scans confirm genetic compatibility. The Galactic Alliance's hybridization protocols could allow us to produce offspring with the best traits of both species. Silence fell over the chamber. The possibility of Calix, the genetic outlier, the evolutionary dead end, producing viable offspring challenged everything Drachnian society assumed about biological destiny. Elder Thaxis finally spoke. The decision requires deliberation. Return tomorrow for our judgment. That night, as they stood beneath Drachnia's troubled skies for what might be the last time, Elias took Calix's hands in his. Whatever they decide, he said, my feelings remain unchanged. If they forbid your departure, I'll stay. You would abandon Earth? She asked, her bioluminescence pulsing with emotion. Earth will continue without me, but I've discovered I don't wish to continue without you. He pressed his forehead against her armored chest. Diplomats are trained to build bridges between worlds. Sometimes that means creating a new world altogether. The Council's decision, delivered the next day, was pragmatic rather than supportive. Calix could depart as a cultural ambassador, provided she transmitted regular reports on Earth technology. No blessing was offered for their union, but neither was prohibition enacted. As the Earth vessel descended through Drachnia's turbulent atmosphere, Elias and Calix stood at the landing zone, their few possessions packed. They still don't understand, Calix said, watching her fellow Drachnians gather at a safe distance to witness her departure. They see only the differences between us. Their loss, Elias replied, echoing his words from that first intimate night. The universe is vast, and somewhere between your world and mine, we'll find where we belong together. The ship's hatch opened, revealing a human crew whose expressions shifted from welcoming to astonished as they beheld Calix's towering form beside their colleague. Diplomatic Officer Frost, called the captain, recovering quickly. I see you've been conducting first contact negotiations. Captain, Elias replied with a smile, taking Calix's hand in his. I'd like to introduce you to Commander Calix Thorne, Drachnia's ambassador to Earth, and my future wife. As they ascended the boarding ramp together, Calix's bioluminescence shimmered with a new pattern, one that signaled not just fertility but hope. Behind them lay a world that had never accepted her differences. Ahead lay endless possibility, a future where strength could be measured in more than physical dimensions. The stars awaited them, and beyond those, a universe where love transcended biology, where differences became strengths, and where two beings from worlds apart could create something entirely new. Together,